Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are looking at the literal building blocks of the English language. We're going to explore the alphabet, figure out the everyday mechanics of numbers from 1 to 100, and then use those foundational elements to initiate real, meaningful daily greetings. Let's get started on this journey. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the English alphabet, move on to mastering numbers, tackle the difference between ordinal and cardinal numbers, break down formal and informal greetings, and finally wrap it all up with introductions and replies. Let's jump in.
All right, part 1, the English alphabet and sounds.
Okay, so right here is your absolute foundational toolkit, the 26 letters of the English alphabet, from A all the way to Z. If you're a visual learner, I highly recommend shadowing along. Trace them, say them out loud, A, B, C, you know the drill. It's kind of crazy to think about, but this single set of characters is literally responsible for every single word you'll ever read or speak in English. That's the whole shebang right there. But here's where it gets really interesting. Those 26 letters, they actually mix and match to create 44 distinct sounds or phonemes. And they're divided pretty neatly into two camps. First, you've got your consonants. This is where the airflow from your mouth is actually restricted. Think of that punchy B sound in ball or the D in dog. Then you have the vowels. Vowels are produced with completely open, unrestricted airflow, like the short A in cat or the long A in snail. Honestly, vowels are the true music of the language. And what's super fascinating is how our brains attach these specific sounds to everyday things. When you link a hard consonant sound like P directly to a pig or Z to a zebra, you're not just memorizing a letter anymore. You're giving your brain a practical, real-world anchor. It's the perfect stepping stone to our next topic. Which brings us to part 2, mastering English numbers. So, the crucial first step here is getting a firm grip on cardinal numbers. These are your everyday counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, on up to 10. And from there, we build into the tens, 20, 30, 40, all the way up to 100. You are going to use cardinal numbers every single day, whether you're talking about your age, measuring at distance, or, let's be real, counting exactly how many slices of pizza you just ate. And just to show you how high we can climb once you spot the pattern, check this out, 1,000. You'll hear this number all the time when people discuss years, large quantities, or massive distances. The beauty of it is, once you grasp those base units from 1 to 100, reading a number like 1,000 becomes incredibly intuitive. It just clicks. Okay, part 3, ordinal versus cardinal numbers. Now that we can count, we need to talk about putting things in order. And this brings up a super common question that absolutely elevates your fluency. When exactly do we say 1 versus first, or 2 versus second? Well, it all comes down to the context. You're going to use cardinal numbers when the absolute quantity is what matters, like ordering 3 cups of coffee or waiting 5 hours. But you have to switch to ordinal numbers when the sequence or the ranking is the important part. So you use ordinals for dates, like July 5th, or for podium rankings, or for telling someone you live on the 3rd floor. Makes sense, right? Now here's a quick pro tip. While most ordinal numbers just slap a TH on the end of a cardinal number, so, 4 becomes 4th, I want you to focus all your memorization energy on a few specific rule breakers. 1 becomes first, 2 becomes second, and 3 is third. We also have these slightly quirky spellings for 5th, 8th, 9th, and 12th. Actually, scratch that. They aren't quirky. They're just irregular. Master these specific exceptions, and I promise you, you're going to sound incredibly natural. Moving right along to part 4, formal and informal greetings. With letters and numbers under our belt, we are finally ready to combine them into real social interactions. And greetings, they form your very first impression, so you absolutely must know your audience. In a formal setting, like at work or meeting a client, you want to stick to phrases like good morning or how do you do? But in an informal setting, say with friends or family, you can totally relax. A simple hey, what's up, or yo is perfect. Just don't mix them up. Saying yo to your brand new boss is a classic beginner mistake you definitely want to avoid.
The time of day is going to dictate your phrasing, too. Walking through a typical day, in the morning, you might throw out a cheerful rise and shine or a polite good morning. Once the clock strikes noon, you switch to good afternoon. And anything after 5 p.m. calls for a good evening, usually followed up by a have a good night when you're actually parting ways.
And finally, part 5, introductions and replies. Opening the door with a greeting is great, but now we need to step inside and actually introduce ourselves.
These right here are your bread and butter phrases. Once you've said hello, you naturally transition by saying, I'm, followed by your name. Then you pass the ball back by asking, what's your name? Or where are you from? When they answer, a warm, nice to meet you too, or pleased to meet you, completely seals the connection. These are the absolute perfect icebreakers. Tell you what, let's practice this. I invite you to shadow along and actually read this mini scenario out loud with me right now. Let's get the natural rhythm of this back and forth down. Ready? Hello, I'm Emily. What's your name? Hi, Emily. I'm Paul. Nice to meet you. See how simple, polite, and effective that is? It's literally just a handful of words, but it establishes a completely new human connection. Flipping the script for a second, let's make absolutely sure we avoid some common beginner pitfalls. We already talked about mixing up formal and informal, or the whole inappropriate timing thing, like saying good morning while eating dinner. But honestly, the biggest mistake people make is overthinking it, completely freezing up and forgetting to reply. Remember, in English, you really must acknowledge and respond to a greeting, even if it's just a super quick, I'm good, thanks. And you? To really lock all of this in, I want you to follow these actionable steps from our sources. First, always know your audience. Second, actively listen to how native speakers converse. Watch movies, listen to YouTube, just to pick up on their natural tone and pacing. And third, practice your body language. Greetings are not just verbal. Good eye contact, a confident handshake or wave, and a genuine smile, that stuff is just as important as perfect grammar. So I'm leaving you with this final thought. Language is meant to be spoken. Take everything we've built today, the alphabet, the numbers, those formal and informal phrases, and really challenge yourself. I want you to initiate just one conversation in English today, even if it means just practicing in front of your bathroom mirror. So how will you greet someone today? I hope this explainer has given you the confidence to get out there and start. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.